Welcome to the regular meeting of the Recreation and Parks Commission. Roll call, please.
Chairperson Bob Moda.
I'm here.
Vice Chairperson Kelly Watson.
I'm here.
Commissioner Mark Cavagnolo. Absent. Commissioner Dave Lubes.
Present.
Commissioner Julie Stolnak.
Present.
Would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, moving on to public communication related to commission business only, 5-minute limit per person. Anyone? Woody, are you coming up? Okay.
Just in case my lights go out. Hi, I'm Coach Woody, El Segundo Lacrosse, and thank you. Before I say anything, I want to say it's an honor serving you all, our dear city, our great recreation department, all these 26 years and counting AYSO, El Segundo Little League, El Segundo Girls Softball, and the last 19 doing K high school adult lacrosse, and contributing to our great rec offerings that we have. Thank you all for all you do to make this a great welcoming city. Teaching DEI from the ground up is, like I like to say, after serving on 2 years on the DEI committee, I'm convinced of that. And it's just been great coaching, recruiting, reffing, organizing, promoting, and recruiting and mentoring coaches as well. In fact, somebody asked me at the Heroes Cafe in San Diego, what's your proudest accomplishment? And I said, probably all the number of coaches that I've mentored and through the years and brought into all the different sports, all the lacrosse, baseball dads, everybody. So it really, Mike Keene just comes to mind as just one example here in town. And I want to thank manager Linnea and team. I got your email. Sorry, I was busy all day at work and didn't respond, but I did ask the U.S. Lacrosse organization to send their insurance certificate. So if we still want to do the clinic, we can do that. But yeah, it's the clinic that we were approved for in November. Is totally turnkey, including registration and insurance. They do everything with a QR code. We're not even supposed to put our own organization name in it. It's U.S. Lacrosse Clinics. But at any rate, that said, I am actually okay postponing this grant if U.S. Lacrosse will let us. Our grant was actually much more about benefiting our El Segundo youth sports programs than it was, as much as it was creating new lacrosse players for our Shea, Eliud, Mike Wagner team that's now the new cadre. So, yeah, and in fact, Dave, I think you and Bob will remember at the Youth Sports Council, I did promise that I'm going to bring something to enhance the all youth council sports programs, not just lacrosse. So, yeah, I didn't get the help I was anticipating. I'm swamped with work, and my daughter, Morgan, is getting married November 17th. So I might take you up on not doing that. And also I can spend more time on doing what I think my associate is probably going to talk about the proposal he's made about bringing El Segundo, making El Segundo the host of lacrosse for the 2028 Olympics. It'll also allow me time to lay out how we do an in-house program to actually benefit all the other El Segundo Youth Sports Council programs. Yeah, and that iteration is a different iteration than what Coach Shea and Elle are doing. This is what lacrosse calls flex lacrosse, no check co-ed, which we have been doing for the last 2 falls, and now this is our 3rd year of myself and a cadre of high school interns that want to build their resume. So anyway, I'm sorry for the confusion, and yeah, if U.S. Lacrosse doesn't provide the insurance, though, I would have imagined that the own sport that I founded would still consider me under their wing as far as insurance from Mike Wagner's organization. So yeah, I would have. That's little strange for me, but yeah, especially when they're going to be the recipients of all the lacrosse players. So it's just a little concerns for me. This has been a problem in lacrosse for centuries.
Coach Woody, it's been 5
5
minutes.
minutes? Okay,
Sorry.
I'll finish later. I appreciate, thanks for letting me know. I appreciate being able to serve you all. Thank you. I'll meet you.
Thank you, Woody. Anyone else for public communication?
Yes, hi, Mr. Robbins. I'm architect working with Woody. I made a proposal a few weeks ago concerning turning the Campus El Segundo into a sixes field. Now, sixes is a new form of lacrosse that's being rolled out for the 28 Olympics. It's had some play around the country, but for the Olympics, it won't be a full field lacrosse. It'll be a short field, only 70 meters, 50 meters between goals. So the current facility at Campus El Segundo, for example, is too big. And for it to be used for sixes, whether for an adult program for El Segundo or for the Olympics down the road, it would need to be shrunk. The field would need to be restriped or just place 4 dots at the 4 corners and a couple of dots each for the goals so that the players and coaches can place them for adult leagues. So it wouldn't take much work or commitment by the city to make that happen. I ponder that perhaps $20,000 per quarter could be generated through adult sixes, and that would go to the city for registration. That would be only 8 teams of 12 players each, because each of the teams is just 12 players. 6 play at any given time on each side. So there is potential for the city to start an adult program starting January. And long-term, if there's a commitment shown by the city toward an adult program for sixes, and there isn't anything else in the area, then a favorable appearance to the local Olympic Committee, U.S. Olympic Committee, and the International Olympic Committee would be created. So then one could then reasonably reach out and make a deal or a proposal to bring the lacrosse sixes to El Segundo, so it's the host city. Mind you, all the teams, both men and women, would require practice fields, and El Segundo probably wouldn't be able to handle that. So it would all be taking place throughout the region. But to be the host, it's a nice facility at Campus El Segundo, and there's plenty of parking in the area, and I think it would work. So if someone here can reach out to that Olympic Committee, starting with LA 28, then that would really, really be nice. I think you'd be surprised at how welcome they would be to you if you make that effort. I can't make that effort, but someone here could. And I and Woody would be more than welcome to help that move along. I think that's it. Oh, another thing I mentioned last time, I look forward to one day seeing the Steve Wood Field at Campus El Segundo. But anyway, that's just something. All right. Thanks very much for letting me address the commission.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else for public communications? Seeing none, we'll close public communications. Consent calendar. Recreation Parks Commission regular meeting minutes from September 18th, 2024. Anyone?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's 4-0. There's no unfinished business tonight. New business, employee spotlight. Diego Zavala, who's got that? Ryan.
Good evening, commissioners. This is he's a, nah, we'll go from the hip. No, I'm really proud to be up here with Diego. Diego started working with us several years ago while he was still in high school. His aunt and uncle live by me, so I got to see some good views of Diego walking by, caring for his little brothers and being, you know, just a really good person with his family, taking care of grandma, and have kind of got to see him grow up the last few years. Diego has been promoted to our recreation specialist here at the Joslin Center in the last several months, and he's just been an all-around asset to our department and what we do. During his time with us, he's taken on rec park basketball when it comes to coaching. He originally started working at summer camps, and then we're like, this kid's kind of good. Let's drag him over to Joslin and see how he's going to do at the front desk. And I've listened to the time, attention he's taken with staff, with patrons, with our seniors, always greets everyone when they walk into the building. Listening to him train other staff, how thorough he was and the time he took to bring them up to speed. I called other supervisors and was like, hey, if you need to train someone, send him down. Diego's got it. He's, like I said, total asset to our department, and you know, just proud to watch him grow up. He's currently going into college, and we're excited to see where he ends up. And I just want to thank him for all he's learned in the 6 months or so that he's been our specialist, taking on Lyft. He comes over to Park Vista with me, introduce him to the seniors over there, and actually this weekend he's going to be going on day trippers. They're going to be going to the Getty Villa and going to have a nice time. So Diego, super appreciative of you, and when you do get your motorcycle, please be safe. Thank you.
I just want to say thank you about everything. I really like working here. It's an amazing place to work at. I really like helping out, so it's just amazing. I really want to thank you, everyone.
Well, thank you and congratulations. Okay.
I would just like to add, I had the pleasure of moving into the Joslin Center a few weeks ago, and I had heard great things about Diego. Somebody's seen him help seniors up the ramp to their cars, and just being in the building and seeing the way they communicate with him and the patience that he shows and the care. And I mean, I've thrown several things at them in the past few months. Bring back day trippers. They started a chess club today that already had 7 or 8 participants, and you can just see the care and the interest that he has in that center, and it's just really great to see. So we're happy to have him on our team.
Great to hear. Thank you. Moving down, Recreation Scholarship Program Review. I think Linnea's got
That'll
that.
be me. Okay. Good evening, Commissioners. On December 19th, 2018, Recreation staff presented the Recreation and Parks Commission with the El Segundo Recreation and Parks Program Scholarship. This scholarship program was established to offer financial assistance for programs throughout the entire Recreation and Parks Department. El Segundo individuals or families facing financial challenges would be able to apply to receive discounted registration fees based on financial need. Since the onset of the program, costs of programming has increased throughout the department. At September's commission meeting, Commissioner Stolnak brought up the existing programs in hopes of a revamp. After looking into the current program, staff is requesting recommendations to be made to update the current program in its state. The application process includes a scholarship application that can be picked up and returned to the outreach office at Joslin Center. Applicants are required to submit proof of residency and income tax returns to be reviewed by the RPL director or designee. Currently, the department has 2 application periods during the year, September and April, in which individuals or families apply and prove eligibility to receive discounted registration fees based on financial need. Staff is recommending these application windows be revised so participants and families will know for planning purposes prior to major department registration dates. As you can see on the slide, our current application period is April for an award period in May. These dates fall after camp registration. So I kind of included fall, September through November, registration is in August, winter, January through March, registration's December, spring, April through June, registration March, and then summer, June, August, registration is May. And I think this summer, actually, we're doing our Camp Expo in February. So the planning times are just increasing. Qualified applicants are notified by the department and a flag is placed on their account that applies a special discount rate upon checkout. El Segundo residents from all age groups can apply. Once an applicant is deemed qualified and funds are available, the applicant receives $200 per household per year in credit and is allowed to register for recreation programs at 50% of the specified program rate. Recently, staff followed up with local municipalities to find out more about their scholarship allocation amounts. Allocations were anywhere from $100 to $500 per child per year to $700 per household per fiscal year. Long Beach and Torrance awarded participants a set amount through either donations or the general fund, whereas Malibu and Santa Monica had a different approach where they add up the discounts that they give to make up their total allocation amount for the year. Listed on the PowerPoint are some examples of current resident class rates. So you can see our senior class costs range for contract instructing classes is like $66 to $150 per session. Youth classes are anywhere from $85 to $320 per session. And camp costs are anywhere from $60 for our just staff-run sports 2-hour camps to $500 per week for some of our higher-end contract classes. Current program eligibility is determined according to the annual Los Angeles County income limits that have been established by the Department of Housing and Community Development. Currently, those falling in the categories of low income, very low income, or extremely low income are eligible. Since the onset of the program, income guidelines for those listings have increased. So I was looking at what our application showed for the income guidelines for number of households and then pulled the current HUD criteria for Los Angeles County. And as you can see, just even the low income, which is, eligible is low income and below, starts at, for a single household, is over $77,000 per year. Kind of shocking, if you ask me.
Is that AGI? Is that adjusted gross income?
I pulled just the HUD numbers and pulled the report, and it showed just based on the county. So I would have to look at that a little further.
Because I'm just wondering what number you're looking at on their income tax.
Most likely, it's probably gross. So staff today are just requesting the commission to provide input for the scholarship policy guidelines currently, and any recommended changes will be presented when we restart the program to the city council for review and approval because it has to do with fees. So I'd like to open the floor for any questions or discussions. These are the topics that we're reviewing. So we can start maybe with the application period. Just to make it simple.
Does anyone have any questions?
I have a question.
Okay.
Let's do it that way.
First of all, how many people have utilized the scholarship in
I found one.
And that's forever or
Forever.
forever?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do we think that's because people don't know about it or because it's too little for them to bother putting in an application for? Or is it too cumbersome a process to provide their income?
I think it's a mix. I don't think it is. If you look at our brochure, it's not listed anywhere. You have to find it on the city website. There's just a little page and it's pretty brief on the description of the program. So I really had to do my digging by looking at old files for this program. And the other amount is, yes, when you look at the class rates and $200 per year per family, doesn't seem huge, but in just the past year since I've been in this position, I had 2 families that reached out specifically for camp programs. Both did not fall in the criteria, so I wasn't able to award them or move forward with the application. But I'm also curious if it was advertised more, if we would get some interest.
And they didn't meet the criteria because the
They were
amount was too,
They were non-residents.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, that seems appropriate. But I'm wondering, when the thing was set in 2018, they set the income bars rather than just tying it to the current HUD criteria? Like, why wouldn't it just fluctuate with the HUD criteria?
It was listed as being with the HUD criteria, but then on the actual application, these amounts were listed. So I believe these were probably the low income rates at that point.
Okay, so you don't think that was a hurdle? Like, if somebody had an income of 77.7, they wouldn't be disqualified from the scholarship? Well, that's what I'm asking, is if the policy is that it's the current HUD rate, or she just said this was an example?
The one at the top of that
The
slide
one at
is
the
not
top,
the current rate?
That
we
is what
use?
is on the current
that's what we-
application. So if
that-
I'm to update the application based on current HUD criteria, so if somebody were to pull what was passed and what came before the commission, it would be current rates. So hypothetically, this application every period should be updated.
Right.
Based on what HUD has come out
But the
with.
current criteria that you're using is that top line,
That is
on
what is on the
slide
current application
5, right?
prior to being updated after today's.
Right, right,
Okay,
right.
so we would have to put through something or recommend that it be tied to HUD for it to be tied to HUD.
Yes, and then whether we want to go
Okay.
start at low income or if we want to start at very low or extremely low.
Right.
We'd have to choose where.
Right. Well, I mean, even just there's a $20,000 difference in low income today versus 2018. It seems like we would not want this to be a policy that you'd have to update every year, but rather we would tie it to HUD, and then when HUD updates, we update.
Yeah.
That just seems to make sense.
So we could, when we're making a motion or deciding, you could do based on HUD's.
Right. Rather
And then
than
what-
freezing HUD. We don't want to freeze HUD. And then, okay, for the amount. My concern, because already I can see that like the senior costs probably have some kind of consideration for income baked in. And so is there a worry that, putting a scholarship amount out that is a fixed amount, when these rates are probably more market driven, like seniors are already cheaper classes because we've baked in discounts knowing they're seniors. So are we also going to give them the same amount of scholarship? I mean, it's kind of moot since we haven't given anybody any, but I'm just wondering, like, are we double dipping in a sense or double discounting? And maybe that's appropriate too. I'm wondering what your thoughts are on that.
I feel like it would be a policy decision in the sense of, I think there are still, based on, I was kind of looking over our outreach and our Meals on Wheels participants, and there's my opinion of looking at some of those incomes that they wouldn't even be able to afford some of these classes that are offered. And maybe they do have an interest in coming and taking a fitness class. And if just that $200 would allow them to take one class or two classes throughout the year could have a big impact for such a small dollar amount.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Dave, do you have anything?
Yeah, a couple things. So on the other cities listed, it looks like they are focusing on kids. At least Long Beach and Torrance, it looks like it's just kids. And then Santa Monica and Malibu is just kids as well.
Yes.
But we do it for adults and kids,
It was
correct?
all ages.
It's all ages. So we're like Santa Monica in that way.
Yes.
Okay. Secondly, I think there's a problem with the HUD slide. That low income line does not fit with the rest of the lines. Like if you look at the progression, I don't think that's supposed to be 77,000. I think that's supposed to be in the 50s. That line looks
The
like it would be the like a high income line. See what I'm saying?
Yes, but that's what
How could
is
how could
on
you-
the document.
Right, I think the document's wrong. I
Oh,
think we
yeah,
should be
you're
careful because there's no way low.
Look at low income and then medium income, then moderate income. They're all, you can see that the medium is less. Is that what you're looking at?
Right, but yet it's supposed to be, this is
Right.
progressively higher and higher, so that whole line, I think, is not you misprinted, but I think they've made a mistake, so we should be careful finalizing something based on this chart.
Well, unless they've considered median.
It's,
that-
I
that
think it's
our
correct.
low is below, yeah.
You think,
I think it's correct.
you think median income is
Yeah, that.
lower
that's-
than low income?
I think
Yes.
that what they're saying, because median is just the midpoint, right? But that low income in Los Angeles, folks are making more than
The median.
because we have such a significant number of people who are below.
Okay, I
That's-
see what you're
think,
saying, I
you
guess
know what
it's
mean?
possible, yeah.
That's what they've considered
So-
low, but it's below median.
Okay,
or
so there's
above
like a
median.
line after low, and those two last are different?
Yes. That's what.
Probably should be looked into, just to make sure. And then I guess my third comment is there a staff recommendation on these things? I don't, if we talk for like an hour and then you come at the end and say, well, here's what staff recommends, and we're like, oh, that sounds like a great idea. Is there a staff recommendation?
I went several different ways on this and was struggling with coming up with a recommendation because I'd talk to one person and I'd be like, well, we should just get rid of the whatever the 30% that residents pay to us. So we do a 70-30 split with contractors. I'm like, we should eat that 30% and just have the contractors paid. And so there's just many ways to do it. And I was struggling with the dollar amounts and thinking of our seniors, and if we go low income, is there seniors that make over 77,000, or would the entire Joslin Center be eligible for this program? I mean, I'm not one to say, but there's a lot of factors in it that I needed some guidance on it, to be fair.
My first thought on where we might land would be to raise the amount. 200 doesn't seem like enough, but I wouldn't want to do an amount per year that you could apply to one, like you take a whole class for free. Like my recommendation would be like around $500 based on these other cities. I would say 5 or 6 somewhere in there, and then a maximum amount 200 or 300 per class that you can apply it to, so that you wouldn't just pay for a whole class with the scholarship program. You would still have to pay something. That would be just my initial thoughts. That's all I have.
Julie?
So I was the one that brought this forward. As a volunteer with CASE for 30 years, and also I handled the scholarship program with Little League for 5 years when I was on the board. I looked this over, and I have some things with this. One of the things is it's very hard to find the information in the Rec Park program for somebody that is looking for scholarships. It's like non-existent. Currently, CASE is assisting 42 families in El Segundo. which equates to about 145 people that we are serving food to, or they are shopping in our pantry every 2 weeks. People are shocked by that in El Segundo. That's a lot of people that we have to provide food for every 2 weeks out of our food pantry. When I saw that you were going to be giving $200 for whether it's one person or it's a family of 5, I don't think that is fair. With CASE, what we do is we provide a stipend per person in a family. And I think that's how it should go. It should be a stipend per family member. Because you may have a senior that's one, and they're getting $200, and then you have a family of 5 that's getting $200, and it's not going to get them much to put towards their classes. Also, with the application process that you have, it was showing that they need to apply 2 times a year. I think that they should only have to show the tax return 1 time because it's the same tax return. And yes, they should have to show the proof of residency each time because that can change. So you should review that each time. And it should be the utility bill and a lease agreement so that we're seeing that because that does change. And people do try to get around, we find, try to get around that to retain their El Segundo residency. And the other thing that we do is we require our clients to be on the utility assistance programs to show that they do have a lower income. And you can see that on their utility bills. And if they're not, you can suggest that to them because it does help them out income-wise. And a lot of people are not on those. And anonymity is a very important thing. So really, if you can maintain 1 point of contact in this program, if it's going to be you or it's going to be Sally Smith, 1 point of contact is very important because especially in this small town, word spreads like wildfire, and you won't have anybody participating in the program. In CASE, that's very important to us, and word does not spread. Even amongst our clients, they keep it very tight in that group, and that's very important. So you have to watch in the computer system, you know, because you were saying that they were going to be marked or red flagged. You have to watch that to where it's still going to be kind of like a 1 point of contact and to where it's not red flagged to where everybody sees that. And don't make the application process such a arduous process to go through. You're not going to have a ton of people flocking to it. It's a hard thing for people to come and ask for it. Even in Little League, we had people that needed that scholarship, and we didn't have a lot of people flocking to it. Some people we had to reach out to. So you're still not going to have a lot of people flocking to this, but don't make it a arduous process for them to go through, because it is a difficult thing for people to ask for help. So, but I would increase the amount for the number of family members that they have and not make it a set amount, $200, whether you're one person or you're 7 people. And yes, and I would look at these income numbers here, because I do think that that's possibly off. And I would stress the anonymity figure, or, you know, that it is going to be kept confidential, the information that's shared. And that's all that I have. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you. The applications, 2 pages, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Fairly simple. It's 2 pages.
You need to change the zip code. You have 90247.
Okay. Anyway, 2 pages, the amount, it looks pretty easy to do. A tax return, 2 forms of proof of residency. I see no problem with the application at all. It wouldn't be difficult to complete this. Short amount of time. The dollar figure, $200 per household, seems I think we can go up a little bit. But I like what Dave and Kelly, what we all say is, let's check the numbers and get something back from staff. And I mean, there's a lot of choices here. Low income, medium income, or median income and moderate income. I think we should be probably somewhere in my opinion, in the median. Other than that, scholarship amount, we've talked about eligibility. Right there, Dave, this looks like you want to say something else. Go ahead.
So I think application period would be best for staff recommendation,
Yeah.
because it's about how often you guys have to do it. I would personally say that there should, I mean, if 4 times per year, if you've only had one person in 10 years, then maybe you do open 4 windows for the 4 different things and just see what happens. And if that gets overwhelming, you can always change it back to 2 or 3 if it gets overwhelming. But I think to start out with 4,
Agreed.
why not just have them do it for each one? Would be my recommendation. But if you come back next meeting and say, you know, we talked about it more and we want to do this, I think that piece is more on you. The scholarship amount, I think we're all kind of in the 5 or 6. Does that sound like per household? Julie's point about per person, I don't know how difficult that would be to manage again. So I like her idea. You should, you know, a family of 5 should have a little bit more opportunity than a family of 1 to use it. But I'd love for you to flesh that out for us a little bit, maybe.
Sure.
And then eligibility-wise, I think the eligibility is going to be the income piece. But I have a problem with $77,000 because, you know, if you're a single teacher in El Segundo, you start out at $65,000, $70,000. So I don't, that seems really high to me.
That's right.
Like, a lot of people would qualify, and even though only one person uses it, we don't want to set it at a place where people who really don't need it are able to use it. So I feel like 77, like that's a really, I don't know, that's a lot. I feel like it should be lower than that, personally.
That's why I went with median, which is the one just below it.
Well, the median, yeah. I mean, that would be a little more palatable, I think. But so is that enough feedback?
Yeah, well, I want to go, you said 4 times. Right now, current is 2 times application period. Do we really need to do this, have somebody do it 4 times in a year?
Maybe not. Maybe 2 is fine.
We haven't had anybody, basically.
Well, or maybe,
I don't want to make more work for the applicant and/or staff. So that's why I would stick with the,
Can one application period make you eligible for 2 seasons?
We do a 1 year, we do a
you're
yearly
doing one
review.
application for the year.
It's open 2 or potentially 4 times, but their award is for the year.
Okay, so
Right.
they
Yeah.
don't have to, they don't have to come
Yeah.
back
If
in.
you decide in the fall that you're gonna sign your kids up for
Yeah.
swimming, you shouldn't have to wait till the next year to find out if you're gonna get it funded. You should be able to apply in the fall before you sign up for funding.
Right, so do you
That's what
think
she
2
said.
is enough?
I think it should be the 4 that she's saying, because that's the 4 times a year a catalog comes out.
It might come to their mind to apply,
Well,
like they
yeah,
may not have.
If they're only gonna sign up for swimming, or they're only gonna sign up for dance, or they're only gonna, then whenever they enter, but if it's good for a year, then they're only gonna be applying once a year. It's just.
I have no strong feeling about 2 versus 4.
4 seems
How about
fine,
3?
and then it can be advertised with
the catalog.
the catalog.
Yeah, and that's the other piece I
Okay.
think that you've clearly heard is, maybe on the inside cover is where you see it, right? When you open it up, it's right there with a little, that
Yes.
would be helpful too.
Do you have enough feedback?
I do. I
Do
did
you want anything, are you requesting any more feedback than what you got tonight?
The only thing I want to hash out a little more is the scholarship amount, because Julie did bring up the per person, and then you guys are bringing the one load per family. So in looking at other cities, like they have a max 700 per household, so maybe it's a 200 per person up to 700 per household, or something could be fleshed out like that. But
I don't know, we have 3 cities don't have any at all, and then we have a 500, 357. 7 seems really high, but then again, we don't have a lot of people doing it, so it's not a big loss to the city.
Well, I do think that there's a point that you brought up, and that is that not all of our programs are 100% in-house. So when it's an in-house program, we have no additional marginal cost for an additional user. But if we have an outside vendor, we have to pay the outside vendor the 70% of the cost. And so now that's a real hard cost for the city that they're spending on this. So I don't know if that complicates things, or again, it's not well utilized, so it's not going to kill your budget. But if it did become well utilized, that could potentially mean that the city is now not just giving them a discount, but actually paying out money to pay for them to take programs. So I don't know if that's something we need to consider.
could just be like a 30% discount across the board, because then that at least covers.
your cost,
Yes.
right? If not, you're spending,
Not that I want to complicate it any further, but 30% on contracted classes, it'd be like two different strands, right? If it's contract class, then it's 30%. If it's our class, then it's
50%,
200
yeah.
per person up to X amount per household,
yeah.
or something like that.
I think that if you don't want to create a potential for budget shortfall, that
Does
might be
that
a
complicate the administrative part of it? If you had 2 strands, if it's contracted, then it's 30%. If it's this, then it's a money issue.
We were discussing all of it. So I think if it's the 30% discount on, it's relatively easier, because the contractor is still getting their amount that they're contracted to get, and it doesn't come out of the city's general fund. If it's 50% or 30% just to make it clean to our programs, then that's just our subsidy, which
So
is.
if it was 30% across the board, including our programs, would it be too difficult to keep track of those maxes, right? So 30% of this program is $250, but 30% of this program is only $75. So now if someone's, again, if there's only one person, it's not a lot, but someone's gonna have to keep track of that on the side. Is that too much administrative work?
I mean,
Because
we've
if-
had one in
Yeah.
because
5
if
years.
it's not, I think we'd be all okay with 30% to make it easy on staff and then go around 600. I like.
I don't know, I'm, after what I said and now listening to what you're saying, if we're gonna go per family, that $200 per person up to a maximum of what per family? And I'm thinking that 200 per person and up to a maximum of 500 for the family. And then you're not given everything. There's got to
Well,
be,
you're not either. If it's 30% though, it's
gonna be,
you might not be able to spend the 200.
that's true, but you have the chance to spend that. You could spend that.
Yeah, you have to be in a bunch of classes. Yeah, you'd have to spend a bunch of money in order to utilize the savings.
And that's 500 for the year, not for the session.
Not for the session, for the year.
More complications. Is this calendar year? So regardless of when you were to sign up, it starts on January 1, and that's when we would keep track? And then it starts over on the next January 1?
So some did calendar year, some did fiscal year. Ours just said per year, so I'm thinking it was based on the date since there was only 2 periods. But
So a year from when you sign up?
When you signed
So
up.
everyone has a different, ooh, well, again, only one person's used it. It hasn't been a nightmare so
Yes.
far, but
I don't get the $500 max though, like, because you're already maxing each person. So if they have 7 children, why don't we want them to have all 7 children get a 30% discount on their classes? Like, it seems to me like the top cap doesn't make sense because we're already saying that if each kid gets $200, but they're spending, they have a $300 swimming lesson and they're only getting 30% off, they're only spending $100 per kid. So I don't get the cap.
I'm looking at Torrance's that has a $700 cap for the family, whether it was 200 per or it was, and that's where I went with that.
it looks like Torrance City Council actually designated $12,000 for the program too, because they have an amount. So they capped their program at $12,000
Yeah.
total, which is another topic of conversation.
Another thing that could be done.
which currently ours is just using our special event trust towards the
Because
program.
that's, yes.
Because it's soft dollars though.
Yes.
If it was hard dollars, you'd have to put a cap like that. Because if you were actually dipping into the part that we pay the vendors, you'd
Yes.
have to cap it. Otherwise, basically the city would be funding all these third-party vendors to do this.
Can I go back to the 30%? Are we okay with, we changed from a dollar amount per class to a percentage per class, not really looking at, I mean, I know we saw how much the classes were, but are we all okay with 30%? Are we done talking about a dollar amount and we're really talking about 30%? And then we can talk about the maximum per family, but are we done on the 30? Is everybody good with that?
It's a question. I mean, Julie, if somebody got, what does swimming lessons cost, for example?
So like, might be 68,
Right, per child, right?
Per child.
So, per
much?
session.
$68 per session per resident.
So cheap, that's crazy.
So,
It's ridiculous.
no
I've been
discount for
saying
that
this
program at all.
I have been saying this for years. We are out of
I
market.
could be wrong,
Wow.
but I know at one point
But
it was.
okay, so
68.
let's say you're paying $60 a child for swimming lessons, and we're gonna give you a 30% discount, so we're gonna give you $20 back. Is that gonna make a difference? You're in, close to these families. Are they looking to subsidize the whole class, or are they looking to get a discount on the class that's deeper than?
Some need the whole class funded.
Right.
Some could benefit from that discount, but many need that whole discount.
That's what I'm worried about, and we want all these kids to learn to swim. We want these kids to have dance class or whatever. So, and if we were gonna give $200 a household, isn't it better they get a $200 swimming lesson for free than a little bit here, a little bit here, a little bit here, and yeah, we're drawing more money out of them. And the only reason I bring this up is then if we're transitioning from the 30%, which is soft dollars, into hard dollars, meaning the city's actually gonna have to spend money to a third-party vendor, then we do have to think about a budget. And where is this gonna come from and who's gonna pay for it? Because if they take the class we do, then it's no big deal. But if they take a class that, a vendor does, we have to pay out of pocket. Now, we could say,
We can go back to two strands and say 30% for contract and full amount or
Full
up
amount
to
for our own
200
stuff.
for our own stuff.
And our swimming lessons are all us usually, right? I like that, because I think that there are certain activities that we have a really vested interest in having more kids learn to swim, having more kids, maybe do drama or something, I don't know what, but versus taking an exercise class that is a third-party vendor or paddleball.
All right.
Right now, I think, Case, out of our 145 people, we have 58 kids. Just to give you numbers. And that's anywhere from babies through high school.
And yet, all of them are eligible because ours is not just kids. It sounds like there's kind of consensus up here, if it's not too much work, to go 30% for contracted and X amount of dollars right off the top for our own classes with an approximately $200 per member with a max of $600.
I'm going between the
I'm
five
trying
and
to
seven.
go between you guys, trying to get a little bit of, and 600 also is divisible by 2, so it makes more, a little bit more. If you got a family
I
of 3.
would be all right with the 600. I don't know how that will fly with council, but
Oh yeah, this is a recommendation
this
to council.
Recommendation.
They can always.
yeah, this all we're doing is we're giving our recommendation feedback to staff. Staff's going to put it together and come back with it to
Yes.
us, so we can just take a look at how it came back and then
Final.
approve it, and then it goes to council
Yes,
because it's a fee.
yes.
And we don't have to be in a, I mean, not that we want to wait forever, but we don't have to be in a massive hurry. If you bring it back and we have another discussion, it can go back to us a third time.
That's right.
Even we want to make it
My
clean
goal-
before it goes to council.
My biggest goal is to have it ready before summer camps,
There you go. We have some time.
which
Okay.
would be February.
Okay, so I don't see anyone really disagreeing with my most recent thought.
So is that like a motion?
It's not a motion. It's a quasi-direction.
Okay, we're getting direction, so
Yes.
we don't need to make a motion
No.
on giving you direction. So now, do you have the information?
Yes.
And in the brochure, can we see it to where it's not like in micro print hidden somewhere? Can we see it to where it's more like a box, to where it's a scholarship program or something, to where somebody can actually see it and say, hey, there's an opportunity?
Yes, my hopes is we can do an ad, so then it could be posted everywhere, but then also on like the major policy or registration pages, and maybe at the top of the camp ad or the senior newsletter, there's an asterisk like, please see this program.
Yes, thank you.
It looks like Dave's going again.
I
Go ahead.
think the only thing that we didn't give direction on was, because we're all over the place, is the number of times per year that it's offered. You want to leave that up to staff to make a recommendation to us?
I think let's let staff decide how much work it's going to be.
Yes.
And if they want to do it 2 times, or they want to do it 4 times. Or do you only want to do it once?
Yeah. Yep.
And we have really nothing to gauge it on, because no one has really used it yet. Okay, you have your feedback.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. A little longer than I thought, but we got there. So with that, we're going to go to reports. Recreation, Parks, and Library Director, but
Allie
Manager
is not
something.
here today, but I am here. So I spoke with Allie this morning, and she updated me that the field allocation policy did go in front of council last night. There were some additional recommendations that were made after the commission had sent it up for approval. The overarching recommendation from council was to bring it back through commission. And before we do that, staff would like to sit back with our members from the commission that were helping kind of guide the policy last go around. And some of the topics to talk about were comparing the different fields and the field usage, priority of the spaces, staff level, what it was like comparing different cities, seeing how they do it. We just want to look at the policy all together and get it a little more detailed, hammered out. Talk about some of the problems that have arisen over the last 6 months and see what changes are necessary before we come back here and then go to council.
Okay, so this will be, we're not going to be in a rush to get this. We want to do it right this time, or fix it up better this time so it can get through to council.
Yes, the hope is, the timeline that it was kind of given is we'd hope to have it back to commission early spring to be implemented in July. So I mentioned to Bob that Jeanette and Bob were sitting on our little internal committee to help with the changes this last time, since Jeanette is absent from the commission now. I will have it added to the agenda for next meeting to appoint somebody else to that spot.
So there was a couple of decisions that got made out of policy this fall. Is that going to also be considered or part of this conversation?
It can be rediscussed. There was the change that went to commission last time. I think, was it March? That it went March or May. It was added that the director has discretion to go against the policy order, and that was approved here. And so it has not gone through council for approval yet. So there's still, we could change that.
Right, but that's my point. But then some decisions got made this fall by the director that were against policy, and one of the user groups is pretty upset about it. So how do we address, I mean, it was not passed into policy, and then it was enacted, but it's against policy, so now we have a problem.
I didn't realize that it was never passed.
I didn't
I thought we
either.
were operating with the director being able to, if all else fails, I can, do it,
Right.
And I
I think we all
highlighted that.
have
I
that.
remember I highlighted it.
I know you
I said, hey, just to make sure everybody knows this, everybody's good with that, and, but
We
then it
passed
never got
it
passed.
here, but it
never
didn't
got passed.
get
It never got
passed
passed.
Oh, wow.
at council.
enacted.
Got it.
As you know. So we just have some very unhappy user group feedback that we should probably deal with.
So it's going to come back, to us, and then as the policy, when we pass the policy, it doesn't mean anything until it gets approved by council. So we're going to have to wait for the policy. Once we look at it again, and it needs to get to council, and before anything happens for staff to do anything. So I think that's what you're talking about. So, okay, I guess we'll see it on the agenda. I guess continue with your.
There's also the director's report that was attached to the agenda if you guys have any questions. I don't think it's attached to this one, but it was posted.
No, it's not on.
Are you talking about her report? Yeah, that was one of the things that I brought up, the report. So has everyone seen her report? It was in the one that you sent, I think, because I have a copy of it. Do you have it?
I don't have it with me right now, but I know it for sure was posted on the city website.
Do you want to look at it?
Okay.
Maybe just highlight it and then let's make sure.
It's on, I missed it.
Huh?
It's on the email.
Yeah,
Yeah, I just missed it.
okay.
It was a separate attachment,
It
I
was a
think, from
separate
the
attachment.
actual.
And that's why I'd like to see it as part of, in the GO delivery, which we'll make sure it happens for the future. So, and you should have it in your separate attachment. That was the same report that we would get every month. Okay. Do we have, all right, with that, the next report down is Recreation Park staff. Who's, I'm going to guess Christopher, Linnea or Christopher, I'm going to assume.
Sure. Don't really have any updates. It was part of the director's report now that I submit. But I'll take any comments or questions related to the parks.
Fields are all back up, all are up and running, and
Yes.
there's no problems, no water leaks, no none of that stuff going on.
Oh yeah, we get a water leak every now and then, but we're on it pretty quickly. So.
Excellent, excellent.
Can I talk about Library Park?
Is
Sure.
it for him?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sure he knows about the damage that's been done at the pollinator garden. This past week, and I think it was just this past week, a lot of damage to the pollinator garden by the kids after school. It's really disappointing, the amount of damage that's been done. We're going to have to do a lot of replanting there. I went down and sat there yesterday for about an hour to see who was actually doing the damage. And I thought, and I put a post on social media, took some pictures, and put a post up about the damage that was done, because it was really disappointing after all that planting that has been done and the money spent on that. And then I went down and sat yesterday just to see what was happening, and I thought it was going to be the kindergartners, and it wasn't. Kindergartners were just playing in the park, harassing one another and having a good time. It was the second and third graders that came down, seemed to be unsupervised, and came down, dropped their backpacks, and jumped right into the garden. And I let them know to get out of there and stay out of there. And they were just traipsing through the plants and breaking them off. And I talked to a few of them, and they were like, "Oh, we're in it every day," like it's a play area. And so we're going to have to end up putting a fence around it to keep them out and reorder new plants to put in there. So it was quite disappointing that they think it's okay to play in there and destroy it, and also break the sprinklers. So it's heavily damaged. And the other thing I noticed yesterday, I've noticed for a while, but I thought I would let you know, and I don't know if it's for Elias for Public Works, but the north side of the library really needs to be power washed. It's really dirty with the, I guess it's moss growing or something on the side, but it really needs to be power washed. It's pretty dirty. So I don't know if that falls under you, Christopher, or if that falls under Elias.
It's kind of a combination. We've talked about it, and we're working it into the schedule. There's some lower elevation stuff. There's also higher elevation stuff from all the rains and so forth that we've had. So some of it's pretty high. We have also had issues with the kids with the trees, breaking off limbs and so forth. We've had some of that in the past few weeks as well.
Yeah, and they also tore off the plaques off of the benches. Because I had recently installed some brass plaques on the memorial benches, and they were epoxied on there, and they Fortunately, I found the plaques buried in the pollinator garden. So I'm now going to epoxy and screw those plaques to the benches. Yeah, they're just damaging things. But I did see them yesterday. They're hanging from the straps on the trees with the poles and things like that.
Right.
So we're going to add fencing to that pollinator garden.
I'm going to assume that someone from the city, or you, since you were there, whatever day that was, gone to administration at Richmond Street and mentioned it to them? Has anybody?
Yes, Barbara Boland, who's the master gardener, she went and spoke with the principal.
Okay.
And the principal is going to put it in the newsletter.
There you go.
About talking to the kids. And then, like I said, I put it on social media, kind of a shaming post. And got a lot of positive comments on I didn't get negative comments back. I got positive comments on, yeah, those kids need to stay out of there. So hopefully, but it's going to be an expensive turnaround to get it replanted. So
Hopefully education will help us out a little bit. So, okay. Anything else for Christopher? Thank you. Anyone else? Linnea, you
I will go.
go ahead.
So I just, because it was brought up in public communication, I just wanted to follow up with some of my communication with Coach Woody, and I'm trying to set up a meeting with him following up. I spoke with the local youth lacrosse leagues to discuss their involvement and their understanding of the proposed November clinic to welcome new members and get the excitement of lacrosse. And they were not, at that time, they weren't aware of the program, and weren't involved. And so I know resource-wise in my department, I don't have lacrosse experts or staff to bring on and run these types of programs in our community. So I explained to Coach Woody, and my communication is, the discussion is that all of our local youth sports groups that we have in town, our soccer, our baseball, softball, water polo, swimming, we have these youth groups that we support, and they introduce, educate, and provide these opportunities for our local youth. And the lacrosse program has 2 new instructors, Shay and Elle, that have taken over the program and are trying to build it. So I really wanted to put more of our focus into making these recommendations towards them and how they can improve and bring in new members and see what they want to do with their program. So I know I brought the 6x6 recommendation up to them, also the opportunity to offer camps through our programs for summer, spring. We could work with them on that, but I really want to let them have the opportunity to do what they would like with lacrosse in town. So Coach Woody and I are going to touch base later, but I just wanted to give you guys an understanding of where we are with that. And then also the discussion of Olympics was brought up, and I believe it was a few council meetings ago, council brought up the idea of putting together an Olympic committee in town to talk about like transportation, maybe discuss like Airbnbs and requirements in the town, and that might be a great opportunity for that committee to look at space allocation and see if any of our facilities can be used for practices or hosting any of the countries. So I will find out who's on that.
Parks and Rec led committee.
I have not heard anything, so I will follow up with Allie if it's been discussed at the executive team level of who would be in that, but I know we'd have interest in sitting on it, and you guys would be very helpful for it.
And I met someone today who is a transportation expert that would be really valuable, and also works with the LA group. So,
Oh, great.
yeah, I'd love to be involved in that conversation.
Okay.
Because I think a lot of the transportation things that we've been discussing have some implications there too. So this would be a really great way to close that loop.
Yeah. Okay.
Great.
Thank you.
Is that it? Okay. We'll continue with commissioner reports. And Dave, you're up first.
One thing I thought of since our discussion was in your recommendation when you bring it back for the scholarship program, consider the 30% thing. Is there a maximum to how many classes you can take at 30%? Or is it unlimited? Just something else I thought about. That's my only comment.
Commissioner comments? Yeah, that's all? Oh, wow, that was easy. Julie?
No, I already said everything.
Okay, thank you. Kelly? And none from me tonight. So with that, we'll adjourn to our next regular scheduled meeting.